Can I do this in 1 minute? Let me see. I am a combat female veteran. I was honorably discharged, and I battled PTSD, but after I got out, I taught and trained military family members for 20 years and built a global nonprofit, which is now not operating at a national level because of what happened to me in the VA missing TBI and misdiagnosing cancer, which led me to spend all of my savings or the remainder of my savings and end up homeless. And one thing that I believe that we're missing is the fact that homelessness is just that. It's not, yes, I needed food, but I needed a home. I needed a place to stay. And we assume that people have places to go. In the white culture, I don't really care who it makes uncomfortable because it's true. We don't, we make jokes about go home to mama. In our culture, it's not taught to take people in. It's not taught to open our homes up and live tribally. And that is where the highest rates of suicide are. So I didn't have anywhere to go. And at one point, I was living in my car and I was working full time. I was working full time. And what we're not understanding, or it seems like we can't be understanding, or we would have solved this a long time ago, is that it takes a 600 or better credit score when you are homeless and you are trying to pay your bills and you get behind one bill, you're not gonna have a 600 credit score. The second thing that happened was the VA stopped paying my medical claims, and that impacted my credit score. So all apartments want a 600 or better credit score. The second thing that happened was I needed last month's rent and deposits, or at the very least, I need month's rent and deposits. Even working full-time at a $10 an hour job, I was still unable, and paying my bills that it took to get to that job, which a lot of homeless people don't have. It is very hard to save $1,200 to $3,000. So to me, it's just so insanely logical now that I've been there. But keep in mind, I don't want to disrespect anyone because my nonprofit served the homeless and we were feeding them too. And now that I look back, I wonder if it all happened for a reason. Because then I went, wait a minute, I didn't need food. I needed first month's rent and deposits. And then I needed help with a cosigner. And then the other thing is they want you to have worked for 6 consecutive months and they want you to make 3 times the rent. So just do the simple math. If you take the minimum wage in Virginia is $7.25 an hour. If you times that times basically $8 an hour, which it wouldn't be, you should probably go to 7 because after taxes. But let's just say it was 8 and you times that times 4, you get $320. Times that by 4 again, you get whatever you get, somewhere around $1,300. Take taxes out, and the average rent is for a studio apartment is between $800 and $1,200. You are not going to be making 3 times the rent. So I moved to a cheaper place, and I even have a job acceptance for $100,000 a year job. But on it, part of it's guaranteed commission, and the other part is a base pay of $20-something thousand, $22,000. Wasn't enough. Every apartment denied me. So while working full time, while having a job in hand that was said right on there, like the guaranteed income is going to be this, I was still denied a studio apartment all over North Carolina. The other part is that they want you to have worked for 6 months. So you walk in the door, you're homeless, and there it is. I mean, it's that simple. 600 or better credit score, got screwed up while you were homeless. Then the other part of it is that all these apartments want you to make 3 times the income, and they want you to somehow do that while you're homeless, and somehow nobody's thought of this. I mean, I guess that it takes someone who's been there, and that's the only thing I can think is the people we have solving this problem haven't been there. I feel like the people who have been homeless would all be like, yep, that was the problem. A, I didn't have anywhere to go. B, getting all of those things in order. I was sitting there trying to figure out how I was going to get a haircut because I'm walking into a job going, I look like a mess and I feel like a mess, and inside I feel like a fake and a fraud because I know that I'm homeless right now, but I'm faking the funk to get this job because my resume, qualifies me for it. So, I don't want them to know I'm living in a homeless shelter or living in a hotel, and getting the money for shoes. I'm going into the thrift stores to buy, a $4 pair of shoes, an $8 pair of shoes, and I can't afford to get my hair cut, so I just feel messy and I feel gross. I'm living in a shelter at one point that's charging me, and it's an unhealthy situation. So I'm trying to make this short, there's a lot more I could say about this, but the premise of what I want to say as quickly as possible so people will watch this is, if we want to solve homelessness, we have to talk to people who have been homeless and we have to ask them what they needed. And I know that sounds simple and basic, but it's pretty logical, right? Like, this is what I needed. And when it came in, then I started to go, okay, well, I have $400. There's rooms for rent on Craigslist. And then people on Craigslist, if there was a room that they weren't checking credit score, or they didn't want to see that I had been in a job for 6 months, or they wanted all the same things that the apartments wanted, or I was too old. They wanted somebody in their 20s. And that happened a lot. So I thought, well, I can get out of this homeless situation because I can rent a room. Well, all of the same qualifications. And the same thing with deposits and rent. So it was one of the two would happen. It would either be, well, we need to see that you've been in a job for 6 months. And all I kept thinking is, how in the world, I have a car. How in the world is anybody going to do this without a car, maybe without a phone? And then we question, like, what we need is we need to cut the red tape, and we need to get veterans grants and money to rehab old houses that have multiple bedrooms, and rehab old hotels, and rehab broken down. I just saw a whole stack of buildings in Virginia, not Virginia, where was I? In Louisiana, that were sitting right next to the VA, empty, run down. I'm like, somebody give a veteran a grant to turn this into a temporary housing place. It's so simple once I was there that I simply don't understand how our country has not solved this, and how we're not seeing that it's housing first. Housing first. Don't tell me about the resume writing appointment that you're gonna get me to, or the HUD VASH that you're gonna get me to, where I'm gonna be stuck in a whole nother group of people that haven't served, or, HUD VASH, what people aren't aware of is you go in the same waiting list as everyone else, and they have a long waiting list. Veterans should have their own stack of HUD VASH vouchers, and you shouldn't have to do what I had to do, which is go to, the VA doesn't even take care of you there. They tell you to go somewhere else. And then that person did a warm handoff and just forgot about me and didn't follow up. And then when I called back, Medicaid denied me when I was homeless. So to me, it's not funny. I'm smiling because I'm sitting here in the camera and I like to smile, but it's not funny. Actually, the truth is, it's disgusting that a country that calls ourselves great can't solve this for our veterans, because it is solvable. It's just, we have to use logic. We have to start realizing that housing first is logical. And because we don't like the person who's in office right now, who's promoting that, we talk about Democrats that put up blocks. But right now, we are blocking a Democrat that has been trying to do housing first for some time. And it's logical. We want you to go to mental health, and we want you to go to, we have all these, that's what, if you call the VA, they're like, well, we're gonna get you into this place and into this place. I'm like, I need a house. I need a bedroom. I need a place where I can stop. My amygdala's going crazy. I'm stressed out of my mind. I'm trying to survive. I'm in survival mode, and you want me to make all of these appointments. And by the way, if I didn't have a car and you wanted me to make all these calls and do all these paperwork and follow up and hope that maybe I get a place to live while I'm sleeping on the ground or sleeping in my car, I got to a point where I was like, if a farmer would just open a piece of land so I could lay on a piece of grass. It sounds bratty because I had a car to sleep in, but it was like my neck, it got painful. It did after a while. I figured out how to make it work. I figured out how to throw my clothing underneath all of my suitcases, underneath bushes, so I could drive for Lyft all day. I was working full time for Lyft still homeless. So it's my goal to be the face of homelessness. I have a degree. I almost have a master's degree. I've run 2 companies. I was running a global nonprofit. And I didn't think about, when I was running a global nonprofit, I was married. I didn't have to worry about money. So we didn't fund me to be able to be the executive director. And then overnight I was alone, and I was like, and it didn't have anything to do with me not knowing how to run X, Y, and Z. It did have to do with a missed TBI diagnosis by the VA, who didn't tell me not to make rash decisions. But It definitely had to do with failure from the VA, but it didn't have to do with me not. I was the person who handled our family's finances, paid the bills on time. It didn't have to do with my inexperience with working. It didn't have to do with my lack of knowing how to run a family checkbook, because I was the one who made sure all our bills were paid first. In fact, my ex-husband used to get upset because I was the person who'd pay all the bills off before I left any money. It wasn't about, I'm not saying that's not the case for other people, but that's not always the case. The case is, once you get there, once you're in poverty, it's extremely hard to climb out. And you just need a one-time organization to come and say, you know what, we're gonna cover you for 3 months. We're gonna get you in, we're gonna find an apartment that someone's gonna co-sign for you, or some